Do you guys know that there are studies out there that actually say that clutter can cause indecision, reduced life satisfaction, and worse well-being overall? That's kind of crazy. Most of us all want clean, organized homes, right? We see them on Pinterest, we see them on Instagram and all the places, and you think that that's what, you want in your own home. But the problem is our time is limited, our energy is limited, our brain functioning might be limited. For me, it is. And mindfulness, just being able to be in the moment, I think is limited as well. I mean, we can all work on it and try to be in the moment as much as possible, but it's a difficult thing to do, especially with everything that's going on in the world, right? Chaos just equals chaos. Basically, what I'm saying is I think that a chaotic mind is often also mirrored in a chaotic space. And so if you want to clean that up, well, which one comes first? Do you clean up your mind or do you clean up your space? And I don't think either answer is right or wrong. I think that if you start cleaning up your mind and you start working on mindfulness and potentially therapy if you need it, and you start just bringing more peace into your life, however you need to do that, it's so different for everyone. But when you start doing that and you're working on it, you're exercising and you're working on your well-being, I think that it will result in you also cleaning up your environment around you. And then vice versa. I think that also if you're not feeling well and you're feeling depressed or just kind of disorganized in your brain, if you start organizing the environment around you, it's going to help your brain to feel better. So to me, in my mind, I think they mirror each other. So today we are talking about decluttering and how to get the motivation to do it. The first thing that you want to do is think about your why. Why do you want your home to be organized in some specific way, or whatever you have imagined in your head? Why is it that you want that? So I have a couple journaling prompts that I actually am going to include in a challenge that I'm going to tell you a little bit about in a little bit later. But for right now, there's just a couple of things that I want you to think about. And one of them is your why. And then another one is, why is your space the way that it is currently? If you have a disorganized space, why have you not tackled it already? And this isn't coming from judge yourself or put yourself down. No, none of that. It's just try to think about the real reasons why it might be like that. And it might be that you do have very limited time and you have very limited energy. And maybe you could be putting time towards social media where you're kind of trying to escape from the reality around you. But unfortunately, we can't escape from it. You might also be leaving the home and going and keeping yourself really busy and doing things so that kind of you don't have to deal with it. I've done all of these things, so I totally get it. But in the end, it doesn't help and it doesn't get you where you really want to be. If you really want to have organization and peace in your life, then it's going to take some things to get there. It's going to take time, patience, continuous effort, and dedication. So no different than if you want to improve working out or you want to improve any area in your life, it's going to take all of those things, right? I have a video that I posted a couple months ago on decluttering, and I kind of gave my backstory as far as where I'm at now and how I got to where I am with my level of organization. And I can tell you that in my 20s, teenage years, early 20s, terribly disorganized. And probably even into my 30s, I would say. Then, we had kids and they were in the sports and we would go, do family fun things, and we were very rarely home, to be honest. And if we were probably relaxing or doing homework or making dinner. It was very busy. We had a lot of hobbies, so we were always doing hobbies. And so I would say that our home was a little more organized as I got older, but also we just had a lot of stuff. There was 4 of us living in for the most time, the kids were growing up a 1,200 square foot home, and that's not a lot of space for 4 people who are into doing a lot of things. So it was hard to keep it organized. But I had friends that did inspire me in different ways. So I had a friend that was like really good at keeping up with her laundry. And I asked her one day, like, how do you do that? Like, how's your laundry always done? And she's like, oh, I just do a load a day. So she does one load every day, folds it and puts it away. And it's like basically just taking that small chunk of time and then, doing it and dedicating the time to it, being dedicated and continuously working on it. I have another friend who her house is super like organized, and I was always kind of envious of her organizational skills in her kitchen, the way she would always have things off the counter and she would clean up and everything would be organized. And I loved that. I loved the feeling of it. I loved how it made me feel calmer, and I wanted to spend time there. So I wanted my own house to feel like that. It was just hard for me to take the time to do it because I like being at home, but I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not like Martha Stewart or anything. I don't like cooking. Cleaning is something that I've learned to kind of enjoy more as I've gotten older. And then being organized is the same thing. Now, I also came from a home where I grew up, middle to lower class income, I would say. And my mother tended to keep a lot of things. Like, she wasn't like anywhere near like hoarding or anything like that, but she just had her hobbies, and she had kept like, plastic containers. And so I just grew up thinking like, if you had a plastic container from a restaurant, you keep that. Like, you wash it and you keep it. I have an aunt actually that would wash plastic silverware and keep that. And so when you grow up around people like that, because my mother had grown up in a home where, that generation that was born in like the, 1910s, 1920s, they went through a lot and didn't have a lot, and so they tended to keep everything. And so when you grow up like that, you have this what's called a scarcity mindset, and you're scared to let things go because you don't know when you'll need them again. So I definitely grew up with that sort of upbringing, and I think that I kind of maintained that through my 20s and 30s, where it was like I got a plastic container and I would put that away, or jars or anything, because I thought I would do cool crafts with them, right? Like, you see cool things on Pinterest that you could do with that. So I'm gonna hang on to that. I do not do that anymore. I try not to anyway, for the most part, unless I know I'm totally definitely gonna do something with it. Otherwise, it's getting thrown out or recycled. This older generation that is now like kind of passing on at this time, they had a lot of collections. We were looking at this home on Zillow, and you could tell that it was probably a woman that lived there and had a lot of collections of things, little things, like this little collection of like, I don't know, I remember my grandma collected bells, and this woman had like collections of like, I don't know, thumb things, like those little things that go on your thumb, but then they like have like every place you go where you travel, you could like get one, whatever, I don't know. But collectibles were big back in like the 70s and 80s. They just had a lot of stuff in it. It makes me wonder like, well, what's with the generation now today where we're like, we want less. Like, less is more. Like, the boho style, Scandinavian style is very simple, very clean. And so I started researching and like looking into Scandinavian design, and you do learn that they're all about peace and like having peace in your mind and in your heart. And so that is reflected in their decor. And so a lot of their art is like very peaceful. And if you do have a piece of artwork on the wall, it's probably going to be one large piece of artwork, not like 6 different little things or 8 different things, because that tends to be a little chaotic. So going back to the older generations, I think that they just had less stuff going on in their heads to where they could handle those things being in their homes. And nowadays we have so much information that's being pushed at us, so much noise in life. For instance, I'm thinking about like going out to dinner, and there's lights everywhere, and there's like traffic and people, and you go out to eat, and we go out to eat a lot more than they did in the 70s and 80s. And so we're just out around, I think, a lot of chaos a lot more. And then obviously social media and the internet brings a ton of chaos into our minds. And so I think that with our minds being cluttered like that, we really need to start inviting our spaces to be less cluttered. I think we're also very materialistic in this society nowadays, where like we think the more we have, the more happy we're going to be, the better things that we have, the better our lives are going to be, or at least the better our lives look to other people. And obviously that's not true, and it doesn't really turn out to be more peaceful, because then you could just end up with having a lot of credit card debt and just things to show for it, and those things aren't going to make you any happier than you were before you bought them. Maybe for that little bit of time when you first get it, you're all excited and it brings that dopamine into your brain, and then you're like, yeah, I got something new, woo-hoo. But eventually all of these things just kind of start drowning you. For me, I know personally it's time to let a lot of things go, and I have been working on this for years, but I still have a ways to go, and I still have more stuff than I want. Living with other people also can be challenging, whether they're either super organized and clean or they're super not. I've known of couples where one person is specifically very organized and sort of obsessive with it, and so as she even puts like a cup down, he's picking it up and putting it in the sink. And I know that like drives her crazy. And I've done it to my own kids too. They'll have this glass of water and I'll pick it up and like put it near the sink because I didn't realize they were still using it. And so that can drive you crazy, right? If you're living with somebody and you want to be organized, you have to try to get them on board first off, and not in like a nagging way. Kind of mentioned this in my last video too. Just try to be encouraging and just start organizing your own stuff, whatever you can do, and they'll start seeing what you're doing and then realizing that it does look better and feel better to be in that space, and hopefully that will encourage them to do it, without you having to say anything. But if it is something that you have to work together on, then obviously just communication is key in saying like, hey, this is what I want to organize. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Do you have any like thing that, makes you nervous about this? Do you have any specific things that you need to be in specific places or whatever? Just communicating and letting each other know like what you're doing and why you're doing it. Your why is going to be so important in it helping them understand where you're coming from. If a cluttered space is like stressing you out, I'll say that, 10 years ago, a cluttered space did stress me out, but I didn't handle it in the right way. I wasn't like saying exactly what was bothering me, because I honestly don't even think I was internalizing it myself. I think that I was very chaotic in my mind, and so that came out in our living areas, and then I just didn't even know what was going on with me, and I don't know that I could have articulated that. But as I've gotten, older, and in the last like decade, I've been able to learn to like calm down and actually internalize what's going on and what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And so now I can actually communicate that to the person I'm living with, which is really helpful, right? I think they like when we communicate with them and we use words. I know I like when they do. So I have a little bit of homework for you before you start just running off and decluttering, because I know that you're ready to do that. So what you want to do is get quiet, make yourself a warm cup of tea or coffee or hot lemon water, and sit down in a comfortable spot and think about some spaces that you've been in that you felt really good in. And what did they look like? What kind of decor was on the wall, or how was their spaces organized? Was it like controlled chaos, or was it, super clean and minimalist? Well, what kind of environment makes you feel really peaceful and really good? You can also consider going on Pinterest and looking at images of, like, if you want to redo your closet first, then maybe you look up, closet design, organization, aesthetics, something like that, or closet design, organization. Use aesthetics because that's going to help you bring up more images versus just products on Pinterest. But yeah, try that and get inspired by what you want to create in the first place. Now go look at the space that you're going to organize, and then kind of think in your head, like, how do I want this? And what am I going to need in order to make it happen? So are you going to need baskets? Are you going to need boxes? Or are there specific places where you could maybe use hooks? What is it that, is there that is maybe piling up? Then how do you give that a home within that space? Or does it even belong in that space? So sometimes you might go somewhere and you're like, why am I even keeping this here? Like, this shouldn't be here. And then find the right home for it. So my number one tip is to let go of things and become better at letting go. And that means both psychologically and physically. We want to obviously let go of like past traumas and all the stress that we've had in our lives, and we try to like do some quiet time and some therapy and meditation and yoga and all these things to try to kind of like get rid of that, right? Go back and visit your inner child and like make them feel better. And that's all a way of like kind of cleaning up your inside and letting go of things. And so you need to do the same thing physically as well. And you got to really try to work on being better at that and try if it's hard for you. Because I know that for some people it's really hard to let go of things, especially sentimental items. You can consider like taking pictures of things, and then that way you're not fully letting it go. But also consider like, if I'm not using this item, could somebody else benefit from it? And picture that person like, and how happy they would be if they had that item. And so instead of trying to hang on to everything, consider donating things. You don't just have to like throw things away. You can also like text friends or family and say, hey, no pressure whatsoever. I'm getting rid of some things. Here's some pictures of what I'm getting rid of. If you want anything, let me know. If not, it's going to, Salvation Army or whatever, Goodwill. Another tip that I have is if you're not quite feeling pumped up yet and motivated, one thing that really helped me was watching organizational shows on Netflix. So I watched like the Marie Kondo series and I watched The Home Edit, and those were really helpful in just kind of inspiring me and getting me ready to go. I remember feeling the same way like 10 years ago whenever we would watch The Biggest Loser, and it was like, yeah, like I want to do this too. I can do this. And so that's what you want to watch, shows that are going to inspire you and encourage you to do the same things. Another suggestion that I have is once you do choose the place where you're going to start decluttering, before you start like pulling everything out of that space, make sure the area that you're going to use that's around that space is clean already. Start there, decluttering that space and cleaning it, and making sure that, if it's like your closet that you're doing, then make your bed. If you're gonna lay your clothes on your bed, make your bed, clean off the end tables, side tables, and like sweep the floor. And it's just gonna help you feel a lot better about doing what you're doing, but also it's going to help you to not get stuck where you get everything out and now you've got all this clutter on top of clutter. And then if you get called to go do something, or hopefully that doesn't happen, but then now you've just got so much clutter and so much chaos and you almost feel like too overwhelmed to even tackle it. So don't let that happen to yourself, and just try to keep the other area clean as possible. So don't bite off more than you can chew either. Be realistic about the amount of time that you have and the amount of time that it might take. If you only have 30 minutes to work on something, then don't try to do your entire closet. Maybe just pick like, I'm gonna go through t-shirts today and get rid of some that I don't wear. Or, I'm going to go through my hats today and figure out how I can best organize them and keep them clean and whatever. So this brings me to the challenge that I'm going to be putting on this upcoming month in February. It's going to start on February 1st and run through the 28th. So it is 4 weeks long, and we're going to tackle different areas of the home. And each day or every other day, we have a specific area that we're going to work in. And hopefully it won't take longer than, 15 minutes to maybe 45 minutes to do these things. If you don't have that kind of time during the week, then what I would recommend is holding off and maybe tackling them on the weekends if you want to do the challenge. And February, what better are many of us doing in February anyway? Might as well take the time that we have and get our homes decluttered so that when summer comes, we can go out and do all the things that we want to do and not have to worry about the house. There's a link in the description below where you can click and visit my website. You can download the PDF that I have for this challenge and follow along. And then I'm also going to offer a Facebook group that you can join where we can all kind of encourage and support each other to get through the challenge. I'm excited about it. I think it is going to be challenging. I definitely have a lot of the areas I want to tackle. I know that we're starting off with clothing, so that's a great one. And it's nice that it's only 4 weeks long. Week 1 is going to be clothing. Week 2, we're going to go over books and papers. And week 3, kitchen and bathroom areas. And then week 4, we're going to do like sentimental items and digital clutter as well. So we're also going to be tackling like our phones or our computers or as much as we can, obviously. So I'm excited. I think that this is going to be a great challenge and something that we can all do together And so definitely make sure that you join by clicking on the link. And yeah, I'm excited. So as always, I'm so grateful for the community that we are building here. I've been really enjoying your guys' comments. My goal here is just to kind of help people build a life that they love. And so I hope that you join me in this challenge, and let's get healthier together, mind, body, and soul. Until next time, guys. See ya. Milo, stop moving. You're fine, buddy. Just stay in one place. Let me do this. Let me do this thing called YouTube. Oh, it's so much harder than you would think. All right. Okay, Milo's over here laying down. That's good.